Captain, I call her Maggie now, but I should probably call her Captain Larson. Captain Larson is a native of Bristol, Rhode Island, and serves as an aeromedical evacuation platoon leader and Black Hawk helicopter pilot with Charlie Company, 2-4 General Support Aviation Battalion out of Fort Carson, Colorado. She has been deployed twice, the first time to Bagram, Afghanistan, and then to Kandahar, Afghanistan. She is a graduate of St. Mary Academy, Bayview, and the University of Notre Dame Army ROTC program. She has served on active duty for the past 7 years. She is married to Captain Shane Larson, who's here with us today, a flight surgeon with the 25th Aviation Brigade. We are pleased she has flown from Colorado to join us on this Veterans Day. So, Maggie.
First of all, I want to thank you for the honor of inviting me to be here and share my story with you today in remembrance of Holly and such an incredible cause. As she said, my name is Captain Margaret Larson, and I served on active duty for the past 7 years in the United States Army. I'd like to share the story of my aha moments with you today. Oprah describes an aha moment as a moment of sudden realization, inspiration, insight, recognition, or comprehension. I was 25 years old, flying medevac missions out of Bagram airfields in Afghanistan. It was a particularly busy year for us in Afghanistan that year. I can't remember the exact date, but I do remember the mission and the aha moment that followed. A call came over the radio describing a mass casualty event in a nearby town. I wasn't a pilot on duty that day, so I watched the events unfold from the command post. A mortar, which is basically a rocket, had landed in a local Afghan bazaar. The exact number of Afghan casualties was unknown, but what we did know was that it exceeded the capabilities of our aircraft at the time. Normally we launch only one aircraft on a medevac mission. However, we had 3 aircraft postured that day for duty, and we launched all 3 of them on this mission. Simultaneously, and within 15 minutes of receiving the call, they were in the air in response. That day, our crews flew back and forth from the site of the explosion to the local Afghan hospitals until all wounded Afghan men, women, and children were evacuated. In total, I think our crews flew between 25 and 30 total patients, hopefully saving many of their lives. As a platoon leader, I had been accustomed to greeting my soldiers out on the flight line as they came back from missions. So when they landed that day and shut down, I was out on the flight line to greet them again and to help them prepare the aircraft for subsequent missions. I remember donning surgical gloves, and then I began, alongside the medics who had flown those missions, to scrub the floorboards of the aircraft, trying to wash all the blood away. When the aircraft were restocked of medical supplies and eventually cleaned, I had my aha moment. I distinctly remember thinking to myself, how did I get from an all-girls Catholic high school in Little, Rhode Island to the middle of a combat zone, scrubbing the blood of my fellow human beings off the floor of my aircraft? And after a moment, I realized that this wasn't a job anymore. This was a vocation, my vocation, and that someone obviously had a plan for me. And that's the moment when I truly embraced the opportunity I had been given to lead soldiers, to hopefully save lives, and to be a part of something greater than myself. 2 deployments spanning 25 total months, 2 separate medevac companies with a combined 200 soldiers, flying a total of 4,500 combat medevac missions later. We've seen evil and we've been to hell together, but we've also seen selflessness and indescribable courage. We've seen soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines fighting for a cause and for the man or the woman to the left or right of them. We've seen medevac crews launch in the most dangerous of weather conditions, with enemy trying to shoot them out of the sky because there was a human being waiting for them who would surely die without them. And scout and attack pilots risking their lives to escort those medevac crews. We've seen patients like Staff Sergeant Travis Mills just minutes after all 4 of his limbs were blown off by an IED, looked the flight medic in the eye and asked, not about themselves, but about their soldiers, whether or not they would survive their injuries and how those soldiers were doing. We've seen Afghans fighting for a better life for themselves and for their children. And we've seen love. My God, we've seen and we've felt love. I didn't know my heart was capable of loving that much until I had the opportunity to deploy and fight alongside the men and women I will always refer to as my second family. I didn't realize my heart was big enough to encompass all the soldiers I served and the thousands of patients we flew, U.S., coalition, and Afghan. But with every person I met, it swelled bigger. As I was reminded of often, the bigger your heart, inevitably the more it breaks. And my heart broke over and over again. It broke when 2 of our sister aircraft crashed into the ground, killing 8 of our crew members, 3 Navy SEALs, and 4 Afghan commandos. It broke for the Navy SEAL we flew, who had survived a gunshot wound to the neck, only to die on the operating table 2 months later after getting struck by an IED. It broke for the ones we couldn't bring home, no matter how fast we flew, how hard the medics tried, and how fervently I prayed. But 7 years ago, God had asked me, whom shall I send? So I answered and never looked back. I've been humbled and awed by the heroes I've had the opportunity to serve, in particular those who've made the ultimate sacrifice. I will forever look back on these years as the most formative and the most rewarding years of my life. I used to listen to a song downrange when my heart was breaking to remind me of my purpose and my task that lay ahead. I hope you too can relate it to your own lives and your ability to make a difference in the world. And after this, we'll actually have questions for the panel. We fly for the troops, we fly for the fallen, we fly for Holly, never forget.
I wanna leave my footprints on the sands of time. No, there was something bad, like something bad I left behind. When I leave this world, I'll leave no regrets. There's something to remember, so they won't forget I was here.
Project on women breaking the glass ceiling to get into the military originally, and ultimately it's been a progression for women joining the ranks in different services and then different roles within those services. So it's been fascinating to watch, especially as a female officer. I've been able to observe female soldiers, and I think that it's incredible when you don't have to make a distinction in gender between males and females in the Army or in service in general. It's really fascinating when you see women performing as well as your male soldiers, and you don't have to make that distinction. You can just say someone is an amazing soldier and talented soldier instead of a talented female soldier. It's been an interesting career.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.